So I want to talk about what's known as the marketing concept. And the marketing concept is not really another definition of marketing. The marketing concept is it's a managerial philosophy. This managerial philosophy essentially says that we need to, that as a marketer, you need to go out and find out what customers want, what types of needs that they're trying to satisfy. Then you develop a marketing mix, that is product, price, distribution, and promotion, to meet customers' needs. And in turn, the customer has a high level of customer satisfaction, and the seller of the product essentially achieve their objectives. If it's a business, they achieve a certain sales level or a certain amount of, they receive a certain amount of revenue. And so the idea behind the marketing concept is that it's basically customer driven. That marketers should behave in a way that you could say that they're customer driven. And it really seems like common sense that marketers would behave this way. And yet it hasn't always been that way. If you go back to the late 1800s, we would say that marketers were not practicing the marketing concept, instead that they were product driven or production driven. If you look at in this country, if you look at the late 1800s, they were concerned about production efficiency. They were concerned about being able to make products efficiently, and we said that was an era production orientation. And that continued probably until about the early 1920s. And then between about 1920 and mid-1950s, we moved into a period where we emphasized sales. Because by the 1920s, marketers were pretty efficient at producing. So starting in about the 1920s and moving up to the mid-50s or so, we entered that period where the focus was on sales and selling, and marketers were engaged in a lot of high-pressure selling and a whole lot of advertising, trying to push products onto consumers, trying to convince them to buy or take these products. And then starting in the mid-50s and moving forward from there, we moved into what's known as a period of customer orientation, where the idea was to, again, find out what the customer wants, make that product that satisfies the customer, and thus achieve the organization's objectives in that manner. So the idea of the marketing concept evolved, and you might think it's so common sense. It's so much common sense that it would have always been that way, but that didn't really evolve until, starting in about the mid-1950s and moving forward. And even then, it wasn't widely adopted. Even today, there are not necessarily all sellers that are out there that are engaged in the marketing concept. Or I should say, practicing the marketing concept. We know that some sellers are out there that are much more production oriented. I think that we have some evidence that a number of firms are practicing the marketing concept or moving in that direction. Think about, for example, how much customer satisfaction is measured today. If you buy a car, don't you hear from the seller and from the producer? Don't they want to know what you think? That is, what you think about the vehicle, what you think about the service, what you think about the seller. I mean, they measure satisfaction quite a bit. There are, if you go to a restaurant, it's not unusual for them to engage you in some manner after your experience or online or whatever, and they want to get feedback about your satisfaction level, and what you liked and what you didn't like. Isn't that right? And we see a lot more of that going on, and we know that in some organizations, an employee's compensation is affected by their customer satisfaction index. It may not be their base salary, but it might be bonuses. In some way, their compensation is even influenced by how satisfied customers are. Measuring customer satisfaction is a strong indicator that an organization is using the marketing concept. So I want to give you an example of an organization that developed a product, and their goal was to build a better product here. Well, first of all, let me just say, it's obvious that this is an original drawing, okay? Yeah, I drew it, and I'm not much of an artist, okay? But this is a drawing of a mousetrap. It is a bowl-shaped object. The bowl's upside down. The dashed lines show what's happening inside. So basically, you can see that around here and over there, that there's a space for a mouse to crawl inside. And so what you do here, and you can see from the dashed lines that there is and at the top there's a handle that has a spring on it. So you push down on that handle, and that handle is attached to a rod that's attached then to a plate, a metal plate. That round metal plate is in the center, and so when you push it down, it goes to the floor when you sort of push it down, and it locks. You put the bait on that little metal platform that goes down to the floor level. Now, when little Mickey crawls in there, the little Mickey's going to go over to the bait that's on that metal plate, and may crawl onto it, but the movement of that metal plate there basically trips the spring. So that whole platform just goes bam like that, right up to the piece of metal that's inside the top of it, and it crushes the mouse. Yeah, there are no injuries. It's all fatalities. Yeah, all fatalities. It's very humane. I mean, it's kind of, alive, bam, dead. It's just like that. In military terms, it's 100% kill. It never misses. Now, we have those little wooden base traps, and that wooden base trap is built by the America. They've been in business since 1928. They also built this trap later, but they're the producers of those little wooden base traps. And you know what they're like. If you have an occasional thing and you have to tilt it back, and then you put the bait on it, and you usually get your knuckles banged a couple of times before you get it set, because it's kind of a hair trigger. This is a lot easier to use. Once you've caught a mouse in it, you just walk over to the trash can, tilt it a little bit, push down on the plunger, and it releases the deceased, and it falls right in the trash can. Now, because of the pressure that it puts on the mouse, there could be a little mouse juice on it. Yeah. So it does wash up nicely. You can clean it and wash off anything, and then you can store it. So this product was built by the Animal Trap Company of America, and they put it out. They already had distribution established because they make those little wooden base traps. They had that distribution established already. This trap was put on the shelf with the wooden-based traps. It was priced about twice as high as the wooden-based traps, so it's still not very expensive because the wooden-based traps are not very expensive, but it was more expensive. They promoted it, and they tried to make people aware of it, what it is, and so forth. So they did, went through a lot of marketing effort. They went through that whole mix. They developed this product based upon the habits of mice, the feeding habits, breeding habits, activity cycle, all of that. And it's a superior trap. I mean, it works a lot better. Those wooden-based traps, they are not as effective as you might know. I mean, sometimes when you catch a mouse, you go in the next morning and you look at it and it's running on its side. It's caught, but it's not dead. And of course, some mice have been to trap school. They can get in, get the bait, and get away. Not with this, but with that wooden-based trap. So, this is a case that it's a product that works extremely well. It's very efficient and so forth. Animal Trap Company put it out in the marketplace, left it there, did the marketing mix and so forth, and it was there for probably a couple of years. They finally took it off the market because it wasn't selling. And it with using further research, this time on the people that buy traps and use them, they found out some things that would have helped them in developing this trap. They found out that basically people buy the wooden-based trap and they treat it as a disposable product. If you catch a mouse with a wooden-based trap, a lot of people, they don't try to extract the dead mouse or the maimed mouse from the trap. They don't try to clean the trap. People that use the wooden-based trap view it as disposable. They will put some newspapers over it, maybe some paper towels. They scoop the whole thing up and they throw it in the trash. The mouse, the trap, everything, it's gone. They don't want to keep the trap. They don't want to clean it. They don't want to store it. We take a dim view of mice in this country. We view them as being just laden with germs. They're walking around all the time with all these germs. And if you get germs on that trap, you can't ever get them off. It's kind of like that. Mice take a bad rap in our culture. So this product failed because it did not meet the needs of customers in terms of how they use mouse traps. That's the bottom line here. It was a great product, and it was a very effective product, but it was not consistent with how customers use mouse traps, and that's why it failed.